To the food more based than Boots Collins. You versus me, that's like Ali versus Foreman. God's act.
Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Tyler and welcome back to another gameplay commentary. In today's video I have a life story that I told about a year and a half ago on my channel. It's my first time tripping on mushrooms, and I figured I'd go ahead and retell this story because it's been a long time since I originally told it. Plus, in a way, I kind of feel like my second mushroom trip video kind of overshadows this video on my channel. I feel like more people have seen the video about my second mushroom trip as opposed to the story about my very first mushroom trip. And as usual, I figured I'd just redo it because I feel like I could do a way better job of explaining the story in general as I did originally when I told the story. So this takes place about 2 summers back. Like I said, it was around a year and a half ago. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I don't entirely remember exactly when it was. But the whole thing started because I was chilling over at my friend's house for the afternoon and I had literally nothing to do. We were over at his house just chilling, smoking weed and stuff, and we ended up finding like a whole bag of mushrooms. It was like an 1/8 of shrooms. Maybe a little bit more, maybe like 4 grams. I'm not entirely sure. We didn't weigh it out or anything like that. But my friend found these mushrooms in his bedroom and ended up asking if I wanted some as well. And so I was down because I'd never tripped on mushrooms before and I was kind of interested in what it was like. So he just split up this bag of like this 1/8 or 4 grams of mushrooms with me. We split it in half and he let me have half of the bag. So I had about 2 grams or like 1.7 grams of mushrooms around there. And I ended up bringing these mushrooms home with me after hanging out with my friends. Neither of us like ended up taking them that day. We weren't planning on tripping, especially because my friend had to go to work in that afternoon. So I brought these mushrooms home and I had them just chilling on my desk for a few days. And one particular day I was chilling in a Skype call with Luna and Cody, I believe. I don't remember if both of them were in there for sure, but I know for a fact that Luna was at least in the call, and I'm pretty sure Cody was there too, if I remember right. But either way, I had turned on my webcam on Skype and I had sat here and I was telling them about these mushrooms and shit, and I ended up just taking them on Skype with both of them. So I had taken these mushrooms and I was just chilling on my computer, basically talking to Luna and Cody, and I think maybe Vezik or a couple other people who were in this group call on Skype. And I was just hanging out for like 20-30 minutes waiting for these shrooms to kick in, waiting for like the feeling to kick in, the tingles that you get, because I had tripped acid prior to taking shrooms, so I was kind of already aware of like the feeling you get from coming up from tripping. I just hadn't ever tripped specifically on mushrooms. But like I was saying, after about 20 or 30 minutes of sitting on my computer, I decided to go ahead and go outside and smoke some weed. So I ended up packing a bowl, going outside and smoking it, and then coming back in and chilling on the computer again for another like 5 or 10 minutes. And so at this point it's been about an hour and 15 minutes into me eating these mushrooms, and this is when shit really starts to kind of go down and starts happening. So I come back and was sitting down at my desk after smoking. I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. So I end up getting up and going into my bathroom, and as I walk into the bathroom I look down at the floor and we have these like white hexagon shaped tiles in our bathroom, and the pattern and layout of the tiles kind of make it so there's just like these clear lines of hexagon tiles. And as I was sitting there in the bathroom just staring down at the floor, I could see these tiles just shifting. Like one row would be shifting vertically and the other row would be shifting like down. And as I was standing in the bathroom I was just staring down at the floor looking at the tiles, and this is when the beginning of my visuals really kind of kicked in. So while I was staring at the tiles, the different lines that the tiles were making, the different rows that they were making were looking as though they were shifting back and forth. It almost looked as if it was like a crazy ass optical illusion. I mean, essentially it was an optical illusion because I was just tripping out, but it looked so fucking crazy at the time. And so I remember just standing in the bathroom like staring at the floor for like 5 or 10 minutes after I'd finally finished going to the bathroom. And I came back into my computer and sat back down at my desk for another like 10-20 minutes. And as I was sitting at my desk I was kind of staring out the window and realizing how nice it was outside, so I decided that I was gonna go ahead and go walk around, go outside and enjoy some nature while I was tripping. So I had ended up walking down to this park that was kind of near my house that had a big bike path and a bunch of other stuff that I could walk around at and just look and enjoy. So I'd popped some headphones in and I was just jamming out, listening to music, walking around, and I'd ended up walking all the way down to this park. And as I was walking through the park, I didn't really have like a plan of direction or anything. I was pretty much just walking around enjoying nature, trying to absorb everything that was around me and just take everything in, really. So as I'm walking down this bike path, basically all around the sides of the bike path is nothing but really tall, like knee-high overgrown grass, and there's a lot of big fields of like different flowers and all kinds of like really interesting artwork and just really cool shit around this bike path. So I was walking down the bike path and I ended up coming across a field, like a big ass field of either sunflowers or dandelions. There were these giant ass yellow flowers, and I remember walking through this field and like going off the bike path into the field of flowers, flowers, and they were all at like my waist height, like they were super tall, and I was just walking around through all these flowers looking around at them. And as I was staring at the flowers, like they were slowly turning into just giant looking bumblebees, and I wasn't spooked because like I was aware that they were flowers, but the longer I would stare at the flowers themselves, they would kind of morph and warp into like these shapes and these almost large looking bugs that literally looked like giant ass bumblebees. Like it was so crazy. I was basically just standing in a big field of floating bumblebees. And I know explaining that right now in a video just sounds fucking ridiculous, especially the way I just explained it. Probably sounds so stupid, but I promise you that's exactly how it was. So I was wandering around in this meadow of flowers and shit, just like looking around, enjoying all the flowers and like looking at all these flowers that I literally thought were just giant bumblebees. I continued walking on further down the bike path because obviously there was a lot more to see than just this one big patch of flowers, so I was walking around some more. And while I was walking down this bike path, I ended up running into a group of people, or a group of friends who I had ended up actually knowing. And since I had already known all these people and was friends with all these people I'd run into, I had figured it'd be a good idea for me to stick with them. I kind of just wanted some people to talk to at this point. And also my mentality was, if I'm hanging out in a group full of like people who are sober, at least not tripping on fucking mushrooms, they can kind of trip sit me a little bit. I knew they wouldn't let me go out and just do some ridiculous ass shit. I knew they wouldn't let me like just act like a fucking idiot in the middle of public, you know? So I figured I'd stay with them, and we ended up going over to this grocery store that was a little bit further down the bike path from us. And we ended up getting to this grocery store, but I wasn't hungry at all, so I didn't really get anything. And I'm not sure if this is like this for most of you guys, but for me, whenever I seem to trip, I just am not hungry at all. Like, I can trip and not eat the entire trip, and then after I will just be fucking starving and like drained of energy. And so I ended up going into the grocery store with my friends, and they were all trying to get food to like munch out, because I'm sure they were all fucking stoned smoking weed all day. So they're all like splitting up, running around throughout the grocery store just trying to find like munchy snacks and shit. And I didn't really know what to get, but I figured I would get something while I was there because I was there anyway. So I was walking around and like I wasn't hungry at all, so I was just trying to make up my mind on something I figured I would enjoy later on once I kind of came down from my trip. So I ended up wandering into the cookie aisle and getting like this fucking bakery thing of cookies. It was just like a grocery store bakery set of like 12 chocolate chip cookies or some dumb shit like that. I think I paid like $3 or $4 for it. And I remember checking out through like the self-checkout and pretty much just leaving the grocery store. I waited outside for my friends for a little bit, and after everybody had came out, we kind of congregated by the door of the grocery store. We had made a plan, like everybody was pretty much splitting up. A lot of my friends were deciding to go downtown to go skateboarding, and I was tripping on mushrooms at the time. You know, I didn't have my skateboard or anything, so I wasn't gonna go with them. I didn't want to just walk around downtown tripping on mushrooms. Like, it just didn't seem like a fun idea. So I decided to go back to the bike path and walk around, and as I was walking down the bike path, I ended up calling up one of my friends to see what he was doing, and he was telling me that he was pretty much just getting off work and that he could chill if he wanted to. So I told him I would go ahead and meet him up at his job, since it was relatively near where the bike path was that I was walking on. So I ended up continuing on this bike path, and at this point it had been about 3-4 hours into my trip, or at least from when I had first eaten the mushrooms originally. So I'm walking down this bike path heading towards where my friend's job is so that I could go ahead and meet up with him, and at this point the sun was kind of coming down since I'd been out for the majority of the day. I mean, it was still sun out, but it wasn't like right up in the middle of the sky, you know, it was pretty much sunset at this point. And as I was walking down this bike path to meet up with my friend, I end up getting to a point where there's like a bridge, and I glance over and notice the entire city skyline. And while staring at the skyline, I ended up noticing that the sun was setting right behind it, so it was basically turning all the buildings into just solid black silhouettes. You couldn't make out which building was which, you just saw like the whole skyline as a solid black silhouette. And the sky itself was just fucking amazing. It was so beautiful. It was basically starting off as just this beautiful bright ass orange color and slowly like transitioning into really dark pinks and purples, and it had these great thin like bright white little clouds way up at the top of the sky. It just was so gorgeous. I remember just staring at it. I was literally in a trance, just tripping on these shrooms for like 20 minutes staring off this bridge at the skyline in the sunset. And so after wasting about another 20 or 30 minutes just staring at the sunset, I finally ended up calling my friend up again and telling him like what had happened and why I was going to be a little bit late. So I finally ended up showing up to my friend's job about 30 minutes after I was just done staring at the sunset. And when I got there, I'd ended up basically just giving him the cookies that I had, like that whole thing of cookies I had bought. I didn't eat a single one, just gave him the cookies because I didn't even want them. And essentially after I had met up with him, we had basically just been talking, and I was explaining to him my entire like trip story, or like everything that had been happening on my mushroom trip. And at this point it had been about 4.5, maybe 5 hours, so I was pretty much starting to come down from my trip. I was just coming down like chilling. You know, I wasn't really getting many intense visuals or just visuals in general that much at this point. I pretty much was just left in like a really euphoric, happy state, and I was just chilling, like enjoying all my time with my friends, just talking to everybody. And pretty much just explaining to my friend like everything that had gone on during this trip. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video or life story. If you guys did at any point, please be sure to leave a like down below. One last thing before I end the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that I actually have an Instagram. I don't think I've literally ever talked about my Instagram on my YouTube channel before, so if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's literally just @Thurns. I'm kind of curious to see how many followers I can get just from talking about it in a video. So let's see what's up, let's see what's popping with the Instagram people. Hit me up with that follow. You guys already know it's @Thurns. Like I said, it'll be on screen most likely, probably linked in the description. But anyways, thanks again so much for watching today's video. You guys know I love each and every one of you. I'm out. Peace.
I got more keys than Alicia. These niggas be talking police. I took your hoe and released her. I used to trap out a Regal. 200,000 on my wrist. I thought it all was a fantasy.